It was a cold evening in the city. The rain had just stopped, and the streets were shining under the streetlights. Expensive cars passed by, people ran with umbrellas. The smell of food came from small roadside stalls. Inside a shiny black car, a man sat quietly looking outside. His name was Mr. Raymond, one of the richest men in the city. Everyone knew him as a powerful businessman, a billionaire who owned companies, hotels, and big buildings. But that evening, he was not thinking about business. His eyes were tired. His heart felt empty. He told his driver to stop near a small food stall. It was not a place where a man like him usually stopped. The driver looked confused but obeyed. Mr. Raymond rolled down the window and watched silently there. Under the dim yellow light sat a woman and two small children. They looked tired. Their clothes were old, but their eyes were full of love. The woman, a single mother, had bought only one plate of rice and curry. She placed it in front of her kids with a small smile. "Eat slowly, my loves," she whispered. The kids smiled and started eating, but the mother didn't take a bite. She just watched them with soft eyes, pretending she wasn't hungry. Mr. Raymond noticed it. He frowned. At first, he thought maybe she wasn't hungry, but then he saw her secretly looking at the plate, licking her dry lips and turning away. She was hungry, but she chose to let her children eat instead. That single act hit him like a storm. He had seen poor people before. He had donated to charities. He had built hospitals. But this moment felt different. It was not charity. It was sacrifice. It was love. He kept watching. The kids laughed as they finished the meal. The mother drank a glass of water to fill her empty stomach and smiled again as if nothing was wrong. Then she picked up her kids and walked away slowly under the light rain. For a few seconds, Mr. Raymond couldn't move. His chest felt heavy. Something deep inside him was shaking, something he had forgotten long ago. The driver spoke softly, "Sir, should I drive?" But Mr. Raymond didn't answer. His eyes followed the woman until she disappeared into the dark street. He whispered to himself, "Why do I feel like I know this pain?" The rain started again, small drops hitting the car window. He leaned back in his seat, but he couldn't stop thinking about that family. The image of the mother giving her last bite to her kids played again and again in his mind. He thought about his own life, about how lonely his big mansion felt, how his dining table was always full of food, yet he never really tasted peace. That night he couldn't sleep. He sat in his study looking at the city lights from his tall glass window. The rain outside reminded him of his childhood, a memory he had buried deep inside. He remembered his own mother, thin, tired, and always smiling, even when there was nothing to eat. She too used to give him her portion of food and say, "I am not hungry. You eat." Tears filled his eyes. Mr. Raymond realized that the woman he saw today reminded him of his own mother, her love, her struggle, her strength. The next morning, before sunrise, he made a decision. He didn't tell anyone what it was, but everyone around him could see something had changed in him. His assistant noticed he came to the office early, quiet but focused. He looked at his team and said one simple thing: "Find that woman and her children. I need to meet them." Nobody knew why. Nobody dared to ask. But everyone could see that this billionaire, who once only cared about numbers and profits, now had something else in his eyes, a spark of purpose, and that decision was about to change many lives forever. The sun was just rising behind the tall buildings when Mr. Raymond sat in his office, staring at the city below. The same city that once ignored him when he was poor now bowed to his name. But for the first time in many years, money felt meaningless. His mind was stuck on that one image, the mother sharing her meal with her children. He kept asking himself, "Why can't I forget her face?" As he sat quietly, memories from long ago started coming back, one after another, like scenes from an old movie, years ago. Before he became a billionaire, Raymond was just a little boy living in a broken house at the edge of a small town. His father had left when he was too young to remember. His mother worked in a factory, sewing clothes from morning till night. Life was hard, but his mother never complained. Every night, she would serve him rice with a smile and say, Eat first. My son, he never noticed that she never took a full plate for herself. One cold night. He remembered waking up hungry and finding his mother sitting near the small fire, sewing clothes under a weak light. Her hands were shaking, her eyes tired, but when he called her name, she smiled as if everything was fine. That smile, full of love and pain, had never left his heart. Years later, when his mother fell sick, Raymond was still struggling to earn enough money. He tried everything, cleaning shops, selling papers, fixing bicycles, but it wasn't enough. He remembered standing outside the hospital, crying, while his mother held his hand and whispered, "One day, you'll be someone great. But never forget kindness, my son." Those were her last words. After she passed away, Raymond worked like a machine. He studied day and night, took small business risks, failed many times but never gave up. He built his empire brick by brick, turning pain into power. Everyone admired his success story. They called him a self-made billionaire. But deep inside, he knew he had lost the reason behind his success long ago. He had money, fame, everything people dream of, but no warmth, no family, no smile that felt real. That's why the sight of that single mother shook his heart. It reminded him of everything he tried to forget: hunger, love, and sacrifice. Later that morning, his assistant entered his office holding a cup of coffee. "Sir, do you need anything else?" Raymond looked up and asked, "Do you believe one small act can change someone's life?" The assistant looked confused. "I'm not sure, sir." Raymond smiled faintly. "I think I saw one yesterday." He stood up, walked to his large glass window, and said softly, "Find that woman." "The one near the food stall?" The assistant hesitated. "Sir, may I ask why?" Raymond turned around slowly. "Because I owe something to my mother. And maybe this woman needs the same hope my mother once gave me." His assistant nodded, though he still didn't understand as Raymond sat back down. He took out an old folded photograph from his wallet, his mother. Smiling with her tired eyes, he whispered, "Mom, maybe it's time to finish the promise I made to you." He knew money couldn't bring his mother back, but maybe it could bring light into someone else's dark world. The rest of the day he couldn't focus on meetings or calls. His heart was restless, waiting for news. In the evening, the assistant returned with some papers and said, "Sir, we found her. Her name is Sarah. She works at a laundry shop and sometimes sells handmade toys at night. She has 2 children, both very young." Da-da-da. Raymond took the paper slowly, reading every word with silent eyes. He didn't say anything for a while. Then he stood up, buttoned his coat, and said one quiet sentence that would begin a new chapter of his life. "Let's go meet her, but she must not know who I am." And with that, the man who once believed money was everything took his first step toward rediscovering his heart. The next morning, Mr. Raymond left his mansion before sunrise. The sky was still gray, and the streets were quiet. For the first time in many years, he wasn't going to a business meeting. He was going to find a story, truth that had shaken his heart. He wore a simple gray coat, and no one could tell he was a billionaire. His driver, David, followed behind quietly. Raymond didn't speak a word during the ride. He kept thinking about Sarah, the woman who had given all her food to her children. When they reached the small street where he had seen her, the market was already waking up. Vendors were setting up their stalls. The smell of fried bread filled the air, and children ran around laughing. Raymond stepped out of the car and looked around. The stall where she had been sitting was still there. The same man was cooking rice in a big pot, humming a song. Raymond walked to him and asked gently, "Do you know a woman who comes here with 2 children? She looks thin, wears simple clothes, maybe comes every evening." The man looked at him carefully and nodded. "Yes, sir. That's Sarah. She comes sometimes when she has money. Sometimes she just sits and watches others eat. Good woman, poor but proud." Raymond's chest felt tight. He asked, "Where does she live?" The man pointed to a small alley behind the market. "End of that lane, a blue door half broken. You'll find her there." Raymond thanked him and walked down the lane slowly. The walls were cracked, the road muddy. He could hear the sound of a child coughing somewhere inside. When he reached the blue door, he stopped. He didn't want to frighten her or make her feel pitied. So he turned to his driver and said, "David, go and ask about her. Tell her you are from a small charity group, nothing more." David nodded and knocked on the door. After a few moments, Sarah opened it. She looked tired but kind. Her hands were covered with soap bubbles. She had been washing clothes. Her 2 kids peeked from behind her, curious but shy. "Good morning," David said politely. "I'm from a local group that helps families. May I ask your name?" Sarah looked confused but answered softly, "I'm Sarah, but we don't need help, thank you." David smiled gently. "It's not about help. We're collecting stories of strong mothers who never give up." Sarah looked down for a moment. "Strong?" she whispered. "I don't know about that. I just try to keep my kids fed." David noticed the cracked walls, the empty shelves, the few toys lying on the floor, made from cloth and bottle caps. He asked, "Do you work somewhere?" She nodded. "I wash clothes for houses nearby and make small toys at night. It's not much, but my children go to school. That's all I want." David thanked her and left. When he returned to the car, Raymond was waiting. "So?" he asked quietly. David sighed. "She's proud, sir. Works hard. Lives with dignity even when she has nothing. Her children adore her." Her man didn't reply. He just looked out the window, lost in thought. That evening, Raymond called his assistant and said, "Prepare some groceries, school supplies, and toys. Deliver them to this address anonymously. Write a note. Keep believing in kindness." The assistant nodded. Still puzzled by his boss's strange new mission, 2 days later, Raymond returned to the same area, this time standing far away, hidden behind a tree. He saw Sarah open the door, look at the boxes in surprise, and then call her children. They screamed with joy when they saw toys and food. Sarah held the note in her hand, read it slowly, and smiled through her tears. For Raymond, that smile was more valuable than any business deal he had ever made. As he stood watching, he whispered, "Mom, I think you'd be proud." But deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. Something inside him wanted to do more, not out of pity, but out of purpose. And so began his quiet investigation, not just into her life, but into his own forgotten humanity the next morning. The city was glowing under soft sunlight. Mr. Raymond sat in his garden, sipping coffee, but his mind was far away, somewhere in that narrow street. Near the blue door, where Sarah lived, he had spent the whole night thinking. The image of her smile when she opened those boxes would not leave his mind. It was pure, innocent happiness, something he hadn't seen in years. He called his assistant and said calmly, "We're going to continue helping that woman, but quietly. She must not know who I am." The assistant hesitated. "Sir, may I ask, why not tell her?" "She would be grateful." Raymond looked up with tired eyes. "Because this is not about gratitude. It's about giving without expecting anything back." That single line showed how much he had changed. Over the next few days, Raymond planned everything carefully. He didn't want to simply send money. He wanted to bring hope the same way his mother had done for him. He sent groceries every week, always with the same small note. Keep believing in kindness. He made sure her children got new school bags, clean uniforms, and colorful books. One day, he secretly arranged for a local bakery to deliver fresh bread to her house every morning. It's already paid for a month. The baker, an old man named Henry, asked him, "Who should I say is sending this?" Raymond smiled gently. "Tell her it's from a friend." Sarah at first thought it was a mistake. When the bread kept coming, she asked the baker, "Are you sure this is for me?" Henry nodded. "Yes, ma'am. Someone cares about you and your children. That's all I know." She smiled shyly and whispered, "Thank you, whoever you are." Each act of kindness slowly changed her days. Her children laughed more, slept better, and went to school proudly with their new things. Sarah felt hope returning, a feeling she thought she had lost long ago. But curiosity grew inside her too. Every night she wondered, who could this be? Why would someone help me? One evening, after finishing her work, she sat by the small window with a candle beside her. The rain was falling outside, and her children were asleep. She held one of the notes in her hand and read it again. "Keep believing in kindness." She closed her eyes and whispered, "Who are you?" "Why me?" Far away, across the city, Raymond was sitting in his study, staring at the same kind of rain. He didn't know why he felt such peace. Maybe because helping her filled the emptiness he had carried for years. But something inside him wanted to do more. He wanted to see her smile again, not through gifts, but face to face. The next day, he called David, his driver. "Take me to the laundry shop near Sarah's house," he said. When they reached, Raymond stepped out quietly and watched from a distance. He saw Sarah working hard, washing, drying, folding clothes without rest. She looked tired, but there was calmness in her face now, the kind that comes from hope. At one point, one of her children ran to her, hugging her legs, and she smiled the same smile that had once reminded Raymond of his mother. He stood there for a moment, feeling something deep in his heart, a strange mix of pain and peace. David asked softly, "Sir, do you want to speak to her?" Raymond shook his head. "Not yet. She doesn't need my name. She just needs her strength back." Before leaving, he told David to arrange something else, a small surprise. The next day, a letter arrived at Sarah's door with another box. Inside were warm blankets, toys, and a note that read, "You may not see who stands behind you. Kindness always finds a way." Sarah read it aloud and smiled through her tears. Her children hugged her tightly, and somewhere watching from his car, Raymond smiled too. He finally realized that the richest feeling in the world wasn't success or money. It was seeing someone smile because of you, without ever knowing your name. But his journey was not over yet. What began as secret help was slowly turning into something deeper, something that would soon change both of their lives forever. Weeks passed and the secret help continued. Every few days, new surprises arrived at Sarah's door: groceries, books for her children, warm clothes, and sometimes a small envelope with enough money to pay her rent. The notes were always the same: keep believing in kindness. Sarah's life slowly began to change. Her children were healthier, happier, and their laughter filled the small house again. The neighbors noticed too. Some whispered that she had a hidden friend. Others said she must have done something good in her past life. But for Sarah, it was still a mystery. Every night, she prayed for the person behind those gifts. Whoever he or she was, one morning, a letter came with a different message. It wasn't a box this time, just a white envelope with neat handwriting. It read, "Sarah, there's a job interview at Bright Future Enterprises tomorrow at 10 a.m. Please go. You don't need experience. Just go with confidence." Sarah was shocked. A job interview? She'd applied for many jobs before but never received a reply. Still, something told her this was not a joke. She pressed the letter to her heart and whispered, "Maybe this is my chance." The next morning, she wore her cleanest dress, tied her hair neatly, and held her small bag tightly. Her children hugged her and said, "Good luck, Mama." The company building was tall and shiny, nothing like the places she had ever been. When she entered, the guards and receptionists looked at her kindly, as if they already knew she was coming. "Welcome, Miss Sarah," the receptionist said with a smile. "Please go to the top floor. The director is waiting for you." Sarah's heart started beating fast. Director? Why would a director want to see me? She took the elevator, her hands trembling. The doors opened to a quiet, elegant office. A man stood near the window, his back facing her. "Good morning," she said softly. The man turned around. It was Mr. Raymond. Sarah froze. She had seen him once before at the food stall that rainy night. She didn't know his name then, but she could never forget his face. "You," she whispered. "You were there that night." Raymond smiled gently. "Yes, and I never forgot what I saw." Tears filled her eyes. "You saw me feeding my children? And you helped us, didn't you?" He walked closer, his eyes soft. "Yes, Sarah, I sent the groceries, the toys, everything. But it wasn't just help. You reminded me of something I had lost, the kindness of my own mother." Sarah covered her mouth with her hand as tears rolled down her cheeks. "Why me?" she asked in a trembling voice. Raymond looked down for a moment, then said quietly, "Because when I saw you, I saw strength. You gave your children everything you had, even when you had nothing. That's the kind of love this world forgets." Sarah couldn't speak. She had no words, only tears. Raymond handed her a folder. "This is your new job offer. You will work here as a caretaker for our company's family foundation. You'll help other mothers like you, and you'll be paid well." She looked at the paper, then at him. "I don't know how to thank you," he smiled. "You already did. By reminding me what humanity feels like." That moment, the sunlight from the window fell on both of them, as if blessing the scene. Sarah wiped her tears and said softly, "I thought angels didn't exist." "I was wrong." Raymond shook his head. "No, Sarah, you are the angel. I only followed your light." She smiled for the first time without pain in her heart as she walked out of the office holding her job letter. Raymond stood by the window again. Watching her leave, he whispered to himself, "Mom, I finally understood what you meant. Greatness isn't about power. It's about kindness." And in that quiet office, for the first time in years, the billionaire smiled. Not a proud smile, but one full of peace. But his story with Sarah wasn't ending here. It was only moving toward something even more beautiful, a change that would touch many lives across the city. The news of Sarah's new job spread through her small neighborhood like morning sunlight. People were surprised. The same woman who once struggled to buy food was now working in a big company. Some didn't believe it. Others whispered that a miracle had finally found her. For Sarah, life had changed completely. Every morning, she woke up early, helped her children get ready for school, and then took the bus to the company. There, she worked with honesty and care. Managing the small charity foundation Mr. Raymond had built, the foundation's name was the Kindness Circle. Its purpose was simple, to help single mothers and hungry children. But for Raymond, it was more than charity. It was a promise he had made long ago to his mother. Every time he visited the foundation, he saw Sarah helping other women, listening to their stories, giving them hope. And each time, he felt his heart grow lighter. One afternoon, as the sun painted the city gold, Raymond stood watching from the balcony of his office. Down below, in the foundation's courtyard, children were playing, laughing, and eating together. Sarah was sitting among them, helping a little girl tie her shoelace. "David." His driver came beside him and said, "Sir, you've changed many lives." Raymond smiled faintly. "They changed mine first." He turned to look at a small picture on his desk, his mother's smiling face. "She wanted me to do something good with my success," he whispered. "Now, I finally understand what she meant." Meanwhile, Sarah's children were growing fast. They were now studying in good schools, wearing clean uniforms, and dreaming big. Every night, they prayed for the man who had changed their lives. But Raymond never wanted credit. He always said, "It was never about me. It was about what kindness can do." Months passed. The foundation expanded into different parts of the city. New families joined. New stories began. Women who once lost hope now found work, shelter, and peace. One day, the foundation decided to organize an event, a day of gratitude. Sarah was asked to host it. When the big day arrived, the hall was filled with mothers and children, laughter, and the smell of fresh flowers. Sarah stood on stage wearing a simple blue dress, her heart beating fast. She looked around and smiled when her eyes found Raymond. Sitting quietly in the front row, she began speaking in a soft but confident voice. "Many of us here have seen dark days," she said. "Days when we didn't know how to feed our children or how to smile again. But someone believed in us. Someone showed that one act of kindness can light up 100 hearts." She paused for a moment, her eyes glistening. "Today I stand here not as a woman who was helped, but as a woman who learned the true meaning of love, strength, and faith." The audience clapped, some with tears in their eyes. Then she turned toward Raymond and said, "Sir, you taught me that real wealth is not counted in money. But in moments like this, when one life touches another," Raymond stood slowly, a proud smile on his face, and the entire hall applauded louder. For the first time in many years, he felt complete, not because of power, but because he had made a difference. Later that evening, when the event ended, Sarah approached him quietly. "You changed my world," she said softly. "And now I'll spend my life changing others." That's how kindness works. It travels. Outside, the night sky was filled with stars. The city lights shimmered like hope itself. As Raymond looked up, he whispered, "Mom, the circle is complete." Sarah stood beside him, holding her children's hands. The little girl looked up and asked, "Mama, who is he to us?" Sarah smiled and replied, "He's the man who reminded the world what kindness means." The camera slowly pulled back, showing the shining city, the laughter of children, and the gentle breeze carrying Sarah's final words. Sometimes, one act of kindness doesn't just change one life, it changes the world. And that night, for everyone who had watched their journey, one truth became clear: the richest hearts are those that give without being seen. The end.